So today we have a very excited lineup of speakers, so I will not delay much further. This call is being recorded. My name is Emmy. I'm the Innovation Community Manager at eLife, and I'll be facilitating this call. The Open Source Community Call is an opportunity for presenters working on software projects for the benefit of the research community to share updates on their progress, invite feedback or support from others. And we hope that the call, as much as being an overview for current initiatives, will also serve as an opportunity to start new conversations and hopefully collaborations. We've run 6 of these calls in the past 2 years. You can find the summaries and recordings on eLife Labs, but we're very thrilled to announce that from this call onwards, we've partnered with Dryad and Force 11 to run them. All 3 of our organizations would like to use these calls as an opportunity to further our support for the wider open source for open research community. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on how to make them work better for you. So please let us know in the feedback section in the bottom of the open agenda. Let me quickly explain how this call will work. Just a reminder that this call operates under a code of conduct, which the URL is now on the screen and also on the agenda. We remind you to be open, inclusive, and respectful, and open to learning from everyone. We do not tolerate any harassing behaviors, either from the speakers or participants on the agenda or on voice. So if you do see any of these, please report them using the reporting procedures detailed in the Code of Conduct. Please refer to the open agenda throughout the call. You can follow the link in the chat box if you haven't got it open already. And please introduce yourself in the roll call section. During the presentations, you can type your comments and questions as we go on the agenda under each and any of the initiatives being presented today in the space provided. If you wish to, you can put your name before your comment or question so others will be able to continue conversations with you after the call. We are looking for volunteers to take notes about the initiatives that are being discussed. If anyone is inclined to do this, please let me know either on the agenda or in the chat box, and I'd be very grateful. If any of this is unclear, please use the chat box to let us know. So the presentations today, we have 8 fantastic presentations, which will also mean that we're quite tight with timing. Speakers, I remind you to please stick to your time limit of 5 minutes presentation plus approximately 2 minutes for discussion, and I'll be quite strict with timing, unfortunately. Please use the raise your hand button on the right-hand side of the control panel of the GoToWebinar if you would like to speak. We will be able to unmute you during the time for questions and after each presentation. We may not have enough time for all the questions, so if we don't, please write them down to the agenda and the presenter can answer them asynchronously. Hope that was all clear. If we don't manage to get to the bottom of the agenda with presentations, we'll hopefully include them in the next call, and we'll encourage everyone to sign up. So without further ado, we will begin. I think we will go first with Daniela, and then I'll see if Ivo is around already, and I will add him. Oh, he is. But Daniela, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to start first anyway. Sorry about that. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me and see the red in my screen?
Yes.
I also can hear you, so I don't know. But I guess it's working. Oh, great. Okay. Great. So hopefully you're not seeing the rest of my screen. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, hi, everybody. My name is Daniela Soderi. I am a neuroscientist as my background, but I've been working on a project called PREreview for the past year now, full time. And it's really exciting to be here and talking about actually a new initiative that we've done in partnership within our organization. But just before I get there, I want to briefly mention what PREreview is about. We are trying to shift the way how scholarly peer review is done by encouraging and supporting early career researchers and specifically belonging to communities that have been excluded by the peer review process engaging them in it by reviewing preprints and crowdsourced preprint reviews. Oh, it's not working. Oh, here we go. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a more recent project that we have been working on in collaboration with a nonprofit organization called Outbreak Science. And so we joined forces about 8 months ago now, and thanks to the Wellcome Trust Open Research Fund, we were able to develop and launch this new platform called Outbreak Science Rapid PREreview. I like the abbreviation OSrPRE, but it's the name is pretty long. But what we're trying to do here is to understand how can we provide a system for researchers that are engaged in public health, infectious disease research to rapidly review.
Daniela, I think we lost you.
Hello?
On audio.
Hello? Oh.
I can still hear her.
Okay. Hello?
I can hear you too still.
Okay, cool. So it's only Emmy. I don't know how to communicate to Hemi. Hemi, ciao, hi.
Sorry.
I think that we lost you.
Sorry, that was me. Yeah. No, go on.
No
Sorry.
worries.
I will cut into your time. Sorry.
This software doesn't give you a lot of feedback, so can't. But
No.
thanks to the other panelists for stepping up. So what I was saying is that we began by I'm really trying here. Okay. Last year in February by conveying researchers and other public health practitioners to London to just brainstorm, and publishers. You can see, probably you might recognize Naomi in there, and Eileen, to brainstorm ideas and needs of researchers that work in these fields, to really see how can we provide a platform and a tool that could be useful to rapidly review preprints in the field of outbreak science. So the reason why this is important, I think it's becoming even more obvious today with the outbreak of the coronavirus and the incredible uptake of preprints that has happened. And so, like, how can we, provide this tool for free? And so these people have helped us kind of come up with the initial concept. And then we moved on to the development of the platform, and we launched the beta in September, and then the final MVP in January. And so I was going to give you a demo, but I know there is not very much time, so I have some screenshots, but I'm happy to go over it in more details for anyone who is interested. It should also be self-explanatory. If it's not, please leave feedback. But basically what this platform allows you to researchers with an ORCID ID is to read outbreak science reviews of other people have left on the platform, to fill out those rapid reviews of any preprint in the field of outbreak science. And we're going to see really what that means in a moment. And also to ask for community feedback, to actually request that feedback from others. And we were trying to develop next are further tools for connecting researchers and users on the platform. But this is like the basic of the MVP. There's a link to this presentation in the Google Docs. So this link is an active link, so you can go to outbreakscience.prereview.org and see for yourself. But again, I have some screenshots here. And so basically, it looks pretty busy, but the idea is that you have a basic searching engine for searching through preprints that have been either requested for feedback or have contained reviews already in this database. I really want to scroll, but and then any users that is logged in can request or add the review of a preprint for which they have a DOI. So this is preprint server agnostic, and it serves the openly licensed PDFs directly into the website. And so, for instance, if I decided to review this preprint of, it's a coronavirus-related preprint posted on medRxiv, this is kind of the screen that I would see, and I would be able to move this window up and down. But the idea is these are a series of, I think, 12 structured questions, and then there are 2 kind of more open-ended questions. And this is, what we're pioneering and trying right now and getting feedback on from our users. There is also a really convenient web extension for Chrome and Firefox that if you are just browsing preprints on archive by archive, wherever you're reading your preprints, it will just show you right there and allows you to see how many reviews, how many requests, and do it yourself directly on the preprint server. Our goal is we have an open API for this, and we would really love to collaborate with preprint servers and other infrastructures that can support this effort to make it even easier for researchers to discover. And so I was just mentioning the coronavirus outbreak has led to an unprecedented uptake of preprints. Yesterday, when I did just a cross-bioRxiv meta-archive with the coronavirus tag, we get 265 results. We've been trying to get the word out that we had 89 requests of reviews and about 15 rapid reviews on the website. We really need to bring this number up. So we just made a call to action and asking scientists with relevant expertise to try to do at least 3 of these rapid reviews on the website. So hopefully we'll get more. And next steps, we really want to focus again on outreach. So thank you, Emmy, for inviting me here. This is very helpful. And partner with organizations that can help us spread the word. So like involved in the outbreak response and collect user feedback. That's an ongoing task that we're doing with Simply Secure. And run some open source global sprints, because we would like to really set up the project and the software for open contributions. I want to thank my team from PREreview, Sam Hindle and Monica Granados, and also Michael Johansson, who is the director of Outbreak Science and funding, and you all for listening. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniela. Sorry, I got to cut you off. If you have any questions for Daniela, please ask them in the agenda. Unfortunately, we don't really have time to do that live right now. But I'm sure she'll appreciate all the questions in asynchronous on the open agenda. Next, Simon, can you go next?
Okay, great. Thank you, Emmy and eLife, for inviting me along. I will keep within my 5 minutes, I hope. Try, Emmy, just cut me off. So I'm here to talk about a project called Open Climate Knowledge. It actually came together over Twitter when Peter Murray-Russ was taking part in, I think, the September eLife sprint. And we were both complaining about how little open research, open access there was in relationship to climate change. And so, yeah, the project began. There's myself, Simon Worthington. I'm based at the German National Library of Science and Technology, TIB, Peter Murray-Russ. We so far have formed a working group, which is part why I'm here on the call, to invite you along to join the working group with Force 11, and the slides are on the agenda. If we take like one reference point that we've been able to find, we see that open rates in relationship to climate change are very low. So we take this open access figure here of less than 30%. And if we look at the fact that, the Budapest Open Access Initiative was nearly 20 years ago, we've only got 30%, it's only another 20 years until the already baked in 1.5 degrees C in global temperatures is rising. So something needs to be done fast. And yeah, that's why we're here. Now, we're using Peter Murray-Russ's Content Mine software, which does data mining. It's a very powerful software, and I think there was an example there was actually the work done directly in the last sprint, which was the instrumental team looking at finding instruments used in a corpus of papers to help find out the relationship of those papers, I suppose, to questions that people might ask. So we have this powerful bit of software. We can do things like with the preprint project as shown. Really good to hear that you've got a well-facilitated API, because that's the type of thing that we mine and can do things like enrich entities in relationship to Wikidata, describe sections, search sections, and the like. But you can see the link to the software on GitHub. It's an open project that I call it. It's an open research project that we have. We're not funded. We just do this work, in whatever way we can. So what we're doing is, it was set up in September. We are trying to find statistics on the rates of open research in open access, in data, in other areas. We want to make a plan for how to transition to full open speedily, and we can do things which are maybe a little bit ambitious, but repositories aggregated from climate research in terms of open access, other types of data. We can create knowledge graphs using the software. To give you some kind of idea of what the software is doing, the bolded elements on here are functions. You run it as a script on your local computer, and it goes off to the API of a repository. So say like Open PubMed, searches with a dictionary of terms, and then you can pull back those papers in full text, carry out local searches, and then annotate with enrichment. So yeah, these types of things: discovery, download, feed, normalize, semantify. Why I'm here is that we started a working group only like two weeks ago with Force 11. We're looking for people to help on the project. If you want to run an experiment and do some searches in your topic area, if you want to help and join us in trying to make a plan to figure out how we can put pressure on, well, whoever it is, pressure needs to be put onto to help us get more content open. And and if you want to find out more, I'm going to do I'll do an open install documentation session, and a week on Wednesday, 5th of March. So yeah, that's a quick run through, and we can follow up. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Do we have questions for Simon? That's very interesting. It's great to hear about the sort of output from the sprints being used for good purposes. And yeah, folks, if you want to join.
Simon, I also like to say great project, and I just submitted a request to join the Force 11 working group.
Hey, Super
and
Joe.
hope we can meet sometime here in Berlin to discuss further.
Yeah,
and I really applaud the initiative. It's so urgently needed, just as much as what Daniela presented. So anything open can only help us solve all these global challenges, and so thanks for that.
Yeah, I think we can see like what Daniela was presenting. I mean, the case for open science, for open access is just kind of irrefutable. But we need projects like Daniela's, like all of these here to obviously make that case, because it's
Thank
the work
you.
needs to be done.
I'm really
Great.
interested in yours. Thanks so much for presenting.
Thank you. All right, in the interest of time, thanks. Please drop all your other questions to Simon on the open agenda. Hi, Ivo. Are you ready?
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for having me. This is a quick introduction of our project and a briefly description of what we're doing now. So PREreview is a reproducible a workflow execution engine, and allows you to, when you're working on experiments, on prototypes, to implement it so in a way that it makes it easier for others to reproduce by leveraging Linux containers such as Docker. If you're familiar with containers, it's a really cool technology, allows you to pack a lot of software in a very usable, consumable format. And you have tons of examples of applications and services that are being packaged like this nowadays. But there are some scenarios that are not addressed by containers, in particular where you have multiple containers that you want to make use of in an exploration, in scientific exploration. And there's like a lot of container runtimes that are appearing lately, and in particular, sometimes you require expensive or difficult to set up infrastructure. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to lower the barrier of entry for people wanting to use containers and implement workflows, experimentation workflows. This is an example of kind of like the state of the art right now in academia on trying to publish reproducible computational science. This is an example on the left on one paper, and on the right, this is an artifact description. It describes you how it tells you how to go about reproducing the experiments containing that paper. You can also think of this as a README on a GitHub page, where you explain how to repeat an experiment for a paper that maybe was published on arXiv or something like that. And the problem with this approach is that it's prone to error, and we're trying to solve it by having a very lightweight notation that allows you to codify what you would otherwise be doing manually, and leveraging containers. This is an example of a workflow where every node in that workflow is container. And PREreview, it's a tool that allows you to take a specification like this and you run it in your machine. The only thing you need is it's Python and a container engine such as Docker. And once you have Docker, you take one specification like this, you run it, and it works nicely because of we're leveraging containers. And if you're familiar with Docker Compose in the Docker world, PREreview is basically Compose but for workflows. We also support a YAML format that allows you to specify very succinctly what you've done. And again, to come back to this, instead of what we're trying to push is instead of having PDFs, what we want people is to encourage people to produce these workflows in a machine readable way so that they're easily consumable by others. We're working with many different organizations. The last one we've been working on is in the machine learning community. I don't know if you've seen the rate of submission of papers submitted to conferences. It's quite large, for like in the order of thousands of papers for a conference. And it's really hard to have a way of ensuring the reproducibility of those submissions. So we're trying to push for this in that community and others. And with that, I'm gonna finish. We have that URL on GitHub. That's a project we always welcome people and contributors, and we love to help people that are trying to embrace this approach.
Great, thank you very much, Ivo. Do we have questions for Ivo? Just checking the question box as well. You can put it on the open agenda as well. Ivo, what would you say, like if developers or researchers are interested to help, what is the best way to go about it?
So we have a Gitter channel. You can look at the link there, and usually people either want to contribute to have the tool do something that it doesn't already do, or apply the approach and make their experimentations reproducible. But they're maybe struggling with Docker, or we're making the tool do something they want to do, and we're always happy to help. At Gitter, that's relatively easy to join. We're also working on a Slack channel.
Great, awesome, thank you. Any other questions? You can always put them down on the agenda so that Ivo can answer them afterwards. But now we could go on to the next presentation. Lily, can I have you presenting next, please?
All right, I'm going to be quick. Can everyone see my screen? It's just this website here.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so I want to thank you, Emmy, for getting this call put together, and then introduce myself. I'm Lily Winfrey, and I work for the Open Knowledge Foundation. But I'm going to do a very quick call for participants and people to join us at an upcoming conference, which is called CSV Come. This is the 5th version of CSV Come, and I'm showing you the website here. It is a really fun conference. It's about data. As you can tell, it's about CSV files, but it's not specifically necessarily about CSV files only. It's about the stories of working with data and the people that work with data, how people use data. It is for all different types of data users, so scientists, journalists, open data enthusiasts, internet advocates, and any kind of data wrangler. And we usually have about 150 to 200 people. I'm talking about it today because I think that the people on this call will be really interested in attending CSV Conf. The call for proposals has already closed, but we are reviewing the talks right now and are hoping to announce the successful talks next week. And we'll announce those on Twitter and also on the website. So if you're interested in coming, I encourage you to check that out when we announce the talks. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and tell you that we have announced 2 keynote speakers so far, and we'll be shortly announcing 2 more keynote speakers. We have Emily Jacoby and Cece Wei, and I think these are both going to be really, really interesting talks about data and how data can be used, and a lot of our talks are about data ethics and also just fun data stories. Okay, CSV Conf is in DC, Washington, DC. It's on May 13th and 14th. And let's see, you can buy tickets right now. They are sliding scale. So if you are worried about the cost for attending, you can get a free ticket. The day before CSV Conf, there will be an event by the Carpentries. And so the project that I work on, Frictionless Data, we might also be having an event the day before, but I'm still trying to get that figured out. But yeah, that's my main information about this. I wanted to keep it quick and just plug that I encourage anyone and everyone to attend. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I also put the Twitter account for CSV Conf on there, and that's a good way to get in contact with us as well. Oh, and we also have therapy llamas that come to the conference in case you need another reason to come. And with that, I will end and have any questions or go to the next person. Thanks.
Thanks, Lily. We do have a question on the agenda. Are there talks on academic reward systems with respect to open data? Or do you not know yet?
So I'm reviewing the talks and I'm trying to remember if anybody suggested something like that. I am not sure. I can't remember, but that is the type of talk that would be interesting, and so it's possible. And I'm sorry, I can't remember.
No problem. I guess we encourage folks to pay attention to the announcement of the program, yes, so that you can decide. All right. Thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you.
Stephanie, could you please go next? I'll make you a presenter. Sure. Thank you.
So thanks all for listening, coming to that. So I want to present my research project on metrics literacies, which has the goal to improve the understanding and use of scholarly metrics. So it's less so a technology, more so an education program. So basically the idea is that we really need to improve the way in which metrics are used in academia, because there's plenty going really wrong and how people are misusing metrics, for example, the impact factor or the H-index. But the big problem is if we want to educate scholars, they're already way too busy and way too overwhelmed with following on the literature in their own field. So the whole idea of the project is to provide audiovisual open educational resources instead of text to kind of like make the education really efficient and effective and also fun to engage with. So the whole question of what we're doing is that we want to increase metrics literacies among researchers, so including doctoral students, postdocs, professors, senior researchers, and so on, but also research administrators, so people involving research librarians, but also research administrators that are basically doing research management. Why are we doing this? Well, the ultimate goal is kind of to reduce the misuse of scholarly metrics in academia. And the way we want to do this is that we want to create efficient, effective, and high quality open educational resources that can be shared freely to increase how people know about and work with metrics in scholarly communication. So our working definition at the moment is that metrics literacies are an integrated set of competencies, dispositions, and knowledge that empower individuals to recognize, interpret, critically assess, and effectively and ethically use scholarly metrics. And metrics literacies are based on critical thinking and problem-solving skills, so similar to information literacies, digital literacies, and so on. But it's with respect to scholarly metrics, which include identifying the suitable scholarly metrics for a given context and using them appropriately in evaluating their value. So are the objectives of this project? We're at the very beginning, so we just submitted a grant application to the Canadian Social Science and Humanities Research Council, and we're hoping to hear about the 2-year funded project this summer, so we would hopefully begin in July. To develop open educational resources to support metrics literacies with a focus on audiovisual materials, so kind of going away from text-based materials, including videos, interactive online resources, as well as podcasts. And we actually want to test experimentally which of these formats, by keeping the content constant, which of these formats are most effective and efficient when it comes to educating researchers and research administrators. And then the third step, the third phase of the project is that once we have identified the most effective resources, we want to make them openly available under a CC BY license, so that everybody can reuse them and share them freely online. And we have a really well worked out, I think, knowledge mobilization plan, including social media, but also lots of community partnerships. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to talk here, is kind of that one of the critical aspect of the project is that the OERs really get widely distributed. So our research questions are, the overarching question is, how can metrics literacy in academia be improved? So we're asking that by what are the characteristics of the open educational resources to improve metrics literacy, so looking at the format, the duration, the level of human embodiment, for example. Then we're looking at which type of resources exhibit the most engagement online by measuring views and shares, likes and comments, and then we're going to look at the learner's individual characteristics, so what discipline they are from, what career status, and so on. And then we want to see how we can widely ensure the wide adoption of these resources. We have a really big team. I'm super proud to have all these collaborators on board, and also really proud that except for one, they're all women. So this is the project team. We basically have 3 groups: the bibliometric expertise team that helps us to ensure the high quality, then a media production team, and a community outreach team. And we're adopted the knowledge to action framework. So we have different phases where we first create the various types of multimedia formats, then test them in an experimental setting, then help to really improve these resources, and then release them online and measure their popularity online. And then we do a quantitative and qualitative analysis of these educational resources to finally disseminate them online. So that's the whole idea of the project, and I hope that given that we will get funding to do this, that many of you would like to share those videos and different open educational resources online in the end. So if you have any questions, the slides are in Zenodo, but I'm also very happy to answer any comments in the any questions in the Google Doc, or also just reach out to me on Twitter.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do we have questions for Stephanie? There is one that is just being typed.
Yeah, sorry, I'm probably quicker at just saying it. Thank you so much. Super interesting. I was gonna ask, like, if you expect to have different kind of careers in academia to prefer one type of resource one versus the other, or you think
so
it's
we
more
don't. That's a great question. Great question. So we don't have any expectations yet, but so that's why we're actually we're stratifying our sample by career stage and also by academic discipline. So we will see in the end which type or characteristics of audience prefers what type of OER. We do have, based on the literature, we already know what kind of videos work better than others, but I'm not really aware of with respect to the academic audience, because most of the educational literature points to undergrad students or graduate students maybe, but there's not a lot on academic audiences in general.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, there's also a quick question, if I can just refer to that, which metrics.
Yeah.
We're starting the case study because we need to keep the content constant for the kind of experimental setup. We're starting with the H-index because we think it's one of the most popular, but also one of the metrics that's clearly been proven to not work. So that's why it's kind of a low-hanging fruit to start with that. But ideally, for the next 5 years or so, we're hoping to expand it to all kinds of bibliometrics and eventually also to altmetrics.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I will pass the room now to Joe, who will present Africa Archive.
So I'm Joe. I'm a freelance open science communication trainer and consultant based in Berlin, Germany, and also collaborate with various African stakeholders on anything open science, really. As a member of GOSH and thereby also Africa OSH, the idea for Africa Archive was born at the first Africa OSH Summit back in April 2018. And that's when Brian Nosek and John Tennant and myself and Justin Ainyor, the co-founder of Africa Archive, there was some tweeting going on as Justin presented his Mozilla project about a broad African repository. So basically, yeah, and this is how we thought, hey, why not have a preprint server for Africa? Bam. And here we are. Okay, so I'm presenting on behalf of the whole team. I'm very lucky to have a whole lot of individuals on board on this project. We're all African themselves. I'm the only non-African in the team. And yeah, basically been working on this without any budget since we started. But that's supposed to achieve is first to promote the use of African languages in science. Language diversity in science and research is, as we think, not only important and vital for African researchers, thinking about the language barriers and difficulties to submit to English-speaking journals, for not sufficient English proficiency, but also for many other countries in the world or scientists in those countries. But with Africa Archive, we kind of want to push the agenda for language diversity on the continent. We also want to bridge the gap between the scientific communities that speaking and publishing in Arabic, French, and English, because they're sort of silos on the continent and there's not much communication and exchange on research within the continent. We also want to foster international collaborations outside the continent, or on a global level, and highlight the relevance of indigenous and traditional knowledge in a research context, because that's also, as we think, important in Africa, but also elsewhere in the world. So we started with the Open Science Framework back in 2018. We launched in June, and this is just one example of the interface, which you probably all know it, and one study by Solomon Tekle, which is also announcing or kind of reporting as a presentation about the recent move by Ethiopia to go fully open access on a policy, like a governmental level. So there's quite some move towards open access on the African continent, and yeah, with various stages and approaches by the different nations. Nicholas Auta is a researcher in Kenya, and he's also a trainer for scientific writing together with our partner organization TCC Africa in Nairobi. And he's also kind of a Twitter supporter, and also as a trainer, he helps researchers to get to know about. And then he also shared his experience and how it has helped him to broaden and widen the dissemination of his results. This is our kind of best example in terms of number of downloads by Rebecca Ackerman, who's Canadian but based in South Africa, and also publishing on African topics when it comes to anthropology. Okay, she's now at, I don't know, 1,100 downloads or something. So that's kind of going through the roof. Peer review. So thanks, Daniela, again for your presentation. I'm very much, or we are as a team very much also interested to talk to you, and yeah, we can collaborate. And so far through the Open Science Framework, we have opportunities for community peer review through Hypothesis. We've talked to peer community in the France-based community peer review service, and Science Open also has does have an inbuilt open peer review on their platform, which we partner with currently. Another topic is what I want to kind of encourage the audience or people in the audience to sign up for. We also co-drafted with other stakeholders for higher education on the continent 10 African principles for open access and scholarly communication, and you find the link in the presentation. It's also in the notes where you can see that we have more than 100 signatories, and you can read through those principles and also sign up if you agree. That'll be helpful to make a case for open access and scholarly communication as it's relevant and specific to Africa. Knowledge, research, academic research, and knowledge from and about Africa. Am I out of time? Sorry. Okay, but I can cut anytime. Okay. Yeah, partner organizations, and the most important thing that some of you might have seen on Twitter is that PKP is launching its open source preprint system. We are currently partnering with the Center for Open Science, Science Open in Zenodo, to disseminate African research as preprints, but we're also very eagerly looking towards PKP and what they'll present on February 28th. And we want to keep, I want to stress that we want to keep those partnerships, but for us it's important that African scholarly knowledge is owned also by African scholars and the African science or communities. And therefore we're looking into building a decentralized infrastructure with PKP and also with local or regional partner organizations on the continent. And that requires a lot of coding, for which we also call for assistants and volunteers and collaborators. And yeah, and we're also about to launch, it's already online, but we're about to launch a crowdfunding platform, which we're happy to receive feedback on. And I think I'll stop here. And yeah, perfect. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Sorry for overstepping time.
That's all right. Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, loads of calls to actions, loads of exciting things. If you have questions for Joe, I see one already in the agenda, but please continue adding them and Joe can answer them, I'm sure, asynchronously, and also check out some of those crowdfunding opportunities and opportunities to learn more about the initiative. So next we will have Hannah.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity to get involved in the open source community. I'm Hannah Sonntag. I'm the source data coordinator at the EMBO. And I want to show you the new tools, which is the Smart Figures Gallery and the editor, which are authoring tools for the source data structured figures. So to give you a little bit of a background on the Smart Figures, I can show you one for a start. So the idea that we have is to change the way we communicate scientific results, and also meanwhile improve the accessibility by focusing on the actual content, which is in the life science anyways, but in most other disciplines as well, the figures. So we use the figures basically as the center point for the organization of surrounding data. And here on the screen right now, you can see a smart figure, and we have annotated the metadata such as the intervention, as you can see here on the left-hand side in orange, that's the intervention, and on the right-hand side in blue, you see the assay or the target component, which basically translates to the dependent or the independent variable of an experiment. And these tags that we have assigned are now machine readable and could be now found through a search engine, as opposed to having to read as a human being to the figure legend or the whole paper. So you can see how we have detected these tags in the figure legend. And on top of that, we can also link raw data to the figures. And obviously, this would be raw data that are sort of the underlying data for this figure. And in this way, we give a way to organize and structuralize data. And you could see a smart figure to be something like a package. So all sorts of metadata, experimental data, caption, and so on could go into this packaged format. And this idea is not entirely new. The source data platform has been published some 3 years ago, but now we kind of want to go forward and would like to engage authors to really, sorry about this, make their own smart figure packages. So we have the Smart Figures Gallery, which is a screenshot which you would see here. I could demo it live, but I rather just show the screenshot. And you could see here a dashboard where I can have all my scientific figures. And here on this dashboard, I would be able to assign, similar to the smart figure that you saw before, the smart tags that are also automatically detected from the figure caption. And because it's an online platform, I can also immediately share these smart figures with my collaborators. I could potentially publish them even if I want to. And this will enable me to maybe even have a little bit of a review from my peers included here. The biggest advantage is that I could now also download my smart figure. And this makes these packages interoperable. Together with our second tool that I also show you now. This is the Smart Figures Editor, which is basically the offline version of the gallery. And here you could import those named figure packages. And immediately these tags that I've assigned on the online platform would also show up here because they are machine readable, and I have them already neatly organized in my figure. Same would be true for any data that I attach, and this could open the door for a single figure preprint, and due to its format, it would ease the publishing process and also help with the data availability issues. I do have a little movie which I will skip for the sake of time and just give you this little visual summary here. So on the one side, we would have the online tool, the dashboard. This has been well, it is under development, and we test it on scientists at the moment. On the right-hand side, you see the editor, which is the offline component, which they have in the center, we have the smart figure, which is interoperable on both sides, the online as well as the offline tool. And ideally, we also connect this with the source data platform, which is the basically the publishing bit of the smart figure package. And the call to action would be here basically to spread awareness, which because at the moment we need mostly traffic, especially for the source data platform, which is unfortunately not as heavily used as we would like to. So please spread the word. And that's it.
Thank you, Hannah. There's a lot of comments on the agenda, which I like. Thanks for improving data visualization for scientific publications. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Does anyone have any quick questions for Hannah? You could use the raise your hand button as well in the GoToWebinar.
Can I just make a comment? I unfortunately don't find the button for the hand.
Oh, that's something to look into.
I just wanted to suggest, I don't know if you've done that already, but I think the project is amazing. I would get in touch with the people, like the design and data visualization community, and there's like lots of theory but also practical stuff on how to make graphs more efficient and also more beautiful. So I think traditionally graphs in scientific publication have been rather ugly and not state of the art, but I think they could be. So I'm leaving a reference here for a book, but there's like lots of stuff out there.
Okay, thank you. That would probably be of help, because I guess once we standardize figures a little bit more, that would ease sort of the way we could annotate them, I guess.
Great, thank you both. Yeah, so I will just quickly speak on behalf of Adam, who unfortunately cannot join us in the end. Yeah, just about the Open Publishing Awards. So COCO has been running these awards since last year, and it was presented at the last FORCE conference, and it was a very good initiative to recognize some of the fantastic open source publishing work that has been going on in the community. And they have just announced that they will be running this awards and would again be presenting at FORCE 2020, which will happen in October. And so please do check out the link in the agenda. I think it's openpublishingawards.org. And other things to check out on the agenda are the nonverbal updates from the PRElights team, as well as some of the upcoming events and calls that we strongly encourage you to join. And this brings us to the end of this call. So please don't hesitate to post feedback or more nonverbal updates on the space provided towards the bottom of the agenda. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and thank you to our presenters for your wonderful presentations and sharing. We'll be publishing a summary of this call and recording, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, on eLife Labs, and I encourage you to pay attention to the announcements regarding our next open source community calls, which would hopefully happen towards the end of June, run by one of our partners. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.